We got more singing from protesters yesterday. I know, it had a holiday, so people were off from whatever the jobs they have, if they have jobs. And they decided to protest inside of a Target yesterday.
I know why they were inside the Target, because it was so cold.
Well, yeah. You know what? It was 17 here in Kansas City yesterday. It must have been 7 in Minneapolis. So they take their protest inside. And here's what it sounded like.
We are one. We won't stop fighting. We won't stop fighting. Till ice is gone. Till ice is gone.
Target says that their mission is to support the joy of everyday life for all families.
Then do it.
Then do it.
Do it. Do it now.
Justice over profit.
Justice over profit.
I love the old guy. It's like, all right, Pops, back to the nursing home there, okay? You just hear him in the background, like from 3. Justice over profit. And his voice is kind of crackling there. You can tell he hasn't really raised his voice like that in years.
And then everybody echoes it.
Yeah. Then it's like, let's make the old man feel good in the back row there. Let's repeat what he just said. Justice over profit. What does Target have to do with any of this? Yeah, I know that Target is obviously headquartered up there in Minneapolis. I get that. But they're acting like Target is like the favorite shopping destination of ICE agents or something.
I actually read it was because they were letting ICE agents use their bathroom.
Oh, my goodness. Is that right?
I read that, yeah. I don't know if that's for every Target up there, but...
There's probably one ICE agent who, went into that Target in Minneapolis because there's so many of them up there because that's their headquarters. And, he probably bought something and then hit the head while he was there. And someone saw that and they totally freaked out. I guarantee you that's how it went down. It was something probably as ridiculous as that. Now, something else happening there in Minneapolis as it becomes ground zero for what's happening on the ICE protest front. Matt Finn of Fox News shared this less than 1 hour ago. He said that one of his rental car license plate numbers has been added to the anti-ICE database in Minnesota, and their car has been deemed confirmed ICE. Now remember, Matt Finn, Fox News reporter, is in a rental car. And they took down the rental car plates and they added it to some anti-ICE database. And he's got a screenshot of it here. I'm looking at it right now. He says that the activists take license plates down and enter them into databases. He says here it's not clear which encounter with protesters resulted in our plate being posted. Remember, he's a reporter. He's got nothing to do with ICE. He says we've had people take pictures of our license plates a few times in various locations. So then he poses this question. What happens to the person, perhaps a family with kids, that have our rental car next? It's a great point. So whoever these people are who are capturing license plates of individuals who they deem as confirmed ICE, they're now going to put potentially this rental car license plate into the system. And then when some guy's with his wife and kids driving around Minneapolis in the next couple of weeks, what's going to happen to him? If they pull him up in the license plate database and he's confirmed ICE to some of these people, car going to be surrounded, going to be heckled, harassed, abused. What does that mean for that family that has that rental car? This is dangerous stuff happening up there. I mean, yes, we can goof about the songs, and the songs are just, I'd love to know if they AI generate these songs to find the lyrics or what they do, if they spend some time, smoke a ton of weed and then sit around a bonfire and put together a song or something. I don't know. I don't know how this works, but, it's basically the same group of washed up hippies from 60 years ago at this point.
We are one.
We are one. We won't stop fighting till ice is gone. Everybody now. And by the way, who gets to be the lead singer? Do they draw straws for that, you think? Or what's that model like? How does that work? I was never in a band, so I didn't know what the politics would be of that and how you would select your lead singer if they have tryouts or what they do, John?
Oh, you can't not notice who the lead singer is
Well-
when you're in a band, typically.
Okay. Point.
That usually takes care of itself, if you will.
Yeah. Mark, when do you get to take lead vocals at church? How do you guys do that?
Oh, it just kind of depends on the song, the person's vocal range, you know.
Okay.
All that.
So you think they do that here with the Protestors?
Yeah, it's probably like, all right, who can hit the high note on this one? You're it.
We won't stop fighting.
Yeah.
It sounds like an old commercial that used to be on the radio station when they used to sing.
Yeah, there are more chants than marches. We're using the word song loosely.
Yeah, well, that's exactly right. That's fair. All right. That's a good point. I listen to these people, and I can't help but think about the clip from one of my favorite movies, Wedding Singer.
You're going to the mental institution.
That's what I think of every time. These people are going to end up in the mental institution. I mean, whether they're going into churches and harassing people who are innocently worshiping, or they're showing up in Target yesterday singing songs, taking over the place in front of a bunch of people who are just trying to, buy a couple of reasonably priced clothing items and maybe do a little bit of grocery shopping while they're at it in a 2-for-1 deal. What is the goal here? Are they trying to win people over? Because if you were, you'd be doing a terrible job at it with the strategy that they've got.
It's all about look at me.
Well, that's the thing, man.
Me.
It's the same thing when you had these protests up in the Northland yesterday. There was like 8 people out there on the street corner in the Northland yesterday because there were reports on social media that ICE was in Gladstone. Now, I reached out to law enforcement up there. ICE was not in Gladstone yesterday. But there were these very generic, like stock photos that showed up on social media saying, watch out, Gladstone, ICE is coming for you. And there was no ICE in Gladstone. I made 2 phone calls, and they're all like, yeah, this is just social media nonsense. None of it's true. But you had 8 people on the street corner yesterday going up there and protesting something that wasn't even happening. So it makes you wonder, I know that you're down with your cause. I get it. You like the idea of people being in the country illegally for some reason, and then also you like the idea of those people committing crimes while they're in the country illegally, which is what you have going on. I mean, it's like the guy 2 days ago that we played for you, the ICE agent who rolled down his window over the weekend in Minneapolis and said this to these protesters.
Second reporting, we're here to arrest a child sex offender. And you guys are out here honking.
No, we're pressing. No, we're not.
That vehicle right there is honking and impeding our investigations while we're trying to arrest a child sex offender. That's who you guys are protecting. Insane.
That's who you guys are protecting. That was an ICE agent in Minneapolis over the weekend. Now, one thing that people have claimed in the wake of that video going viral, those who are always looking for an excuse, is they've said, well, if it's a sex offender, then the police should be arresting them. Okay, well, that's a fundamental misunderstanding of how all this works. Think about it like this. If this individual was convicted and then did his time, what grounds would local police have to arrest him again? Right? If the person's here illegally and they commit a crime, they get convicted and they do their time, what are local police going to do about it? If he was arrested, let's say, pending charges, made bail, how can the local police rearrest him? They can't. What ICE then has a responsibility to do is to make the arrests of these people who are clear public safety threats if they're non-citizens who then are subject to what? Deportation and immigration enforcement. And they can do so without local cooperation. So that's where you can't say it's on the local police to do this work. There's nothing else for local police to do. They've done their job. They've arrested the person. This person potentially got convicted, did time, or they've got pending charges, they've made bail, whatever it might be. But then ICE has a responsibility to do its job. And that's where actually they can be helpful to all of us. That's what this is about. keeping all of us safe, keeping American citizens safe in this country, whether you're white, brown, or black, or whatever, Asian, it doesn't matter. It's about keeping every single American safe. And by the way, which communities get impacted the most by massive amounts of illegal immigration? It is oftentimes communities of color. That's where you're competing for housing. That's where you're competing oftentimes for jobs. That's where it's happening. It's not in suburbia land where a lot of these protesters like to live and go back to their comfortable, nice homes. It's not there. They're not the ones oftentimes getting impacted. But that's the difference between people saying, well, just leave it up to the local law enforcement officials, and what the role of ICE in this case actually is about. All right, I gotta give Trump a hard time right now over this. I just saw this post he put up at 12:37 this morning. I don't know if this was after he got home from that thrilling national championship game last night, although I don't think Trump usually stays for the full game. Bill O'Reilly once shared this with me, that if you go to a game with Trump, Trump never stays till the end because he gets bored. He's like there for an hour, hour and a half, then he's on to the next thing. He's just too jittery of a guy to like sit there and watch a game for a couple hours. And college football is like 3.5 hour process, so that might have been too much for Trump last night. But at 12:37 this morning, he posted on social media, just watched footage of the church raid in Minnesota by agitators and insurrectionists. These people are professionals. No person acts the way they act. They are highly trained to scream, rant, and rave like lunatics in a certain manner, just like they are doing. They are troublemakers who should be thrown in jail or thrown out of the country. The first to go should be Walz. And fake sleazebag Ilhan Omar, who is supposedly worth over $30 million, even though she's never had anything but a government job. Investigate these corrupt politicians and do it now. Well, I know someone who could probably spearhead that. You! Like, Trump's posting that like it's 2014 and he's still a private citizen sitting on the sidelines. Yeah, someone should investigate that. I know someone who can make a phone call and make that happen there, pal. Come on. I'm sick of seeing the posts about like, boy, we should someone's got to investigate this. You run the Department of Justice. Do it. Like, seriously, I don't want to see the post anymore. I just want to see it happen. I want to see you actually, like, do those things instead of just posting about it on social media, because we get a lot of that. And then it's like, hey, whatever happened to that thing after we're 17 news cycles beyond that thing? Oh, yeah, I forgot about. Oh, maybe we should have investigated that. Oh, that would have been good, right? No, that would have been great. Yeah. Okay. Well, too bad. We kind of forgot about it anyway. And when you have this flood the zone mentality, when you're doing like 20 things at once, it's hard to keep your eye on the ball and be like, follow up on this story and that story and keep tabs on this, that, the next thing. It's hard for us to do in this line of work. Never mind, if you're just trying to follow this crazy news cycle. So the post is fine and all. I mean, it's, funny as always, but now actually do something about it, okay? Now, who is in that church, by the way, in Minneapolis on Sunday? You have this church that gets raided by these protesters, and Don Lemon is there, formerly Don Lemon of CNN. Now he's on his own, independent journalist. And Don just happens to show up at the church at the exact right time. Like, whoa, wow, what a moment of journalism there. So yesterday he goes on a podcast and he's asked about, what happened. And as only he can, he amazingly somehow turns himself into a victim as the guy who's basically arm in arm with the protesters and covering what was going on there on Sunday morning in St. Paul, Minnesota.
And there's a certain degree of entitlement. I think people who are, in the religious groups like that, it's not the type of Christianity that I practice, but I think that they're entitled, and that entitlement comes from a supremacy, a white supremacy. And they think that this country was built for them, that it is a Christian country, when actually we left England because we wanted religious freedom. It's religious freedom, but only if you're a Christian and only if you're a white male, pretty much. And so, yeah, I absolutely 100%, but it's an intimidation tactic. And, I said, I don't understand how I've become the face of it when I was a journalist. I do understand that I'm the biggest name there. And I'm also, as I was on with my producers this morning, you and Kylie talk all the time. My producers were saying, I said, how did I become the face of this? And my producer said, Don, you're a gay black man in America.
When you're the guy who storms a church and then try to turn yourself into the victim, I don't know how Don Lemon's head fit through the church doors when that's actually what he believes about what he was a part of on Sunday morning. Don Lemon, the definition of a wanker. That's what he is. I mean, to a T. My goodness. For Don Lemon to go on this podcast, and let me make sure I properly credit this podcast, it is not that you care, but, the journalistic side of me. iHip News, if I'm seeing this right in the corner of the video, to suggest that the church members who are just sitting there in their house of worship on a Sunday morning, minding their own business, are entitled white supremacists as they go out there and just mind their own business, worship their Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ, the Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. Don Lemon, with a bunch of these protesters and lackeys, show up there, claim, of course, to be Christians, interrupt the service, harass the pastor, who they claim is somehow helping out ICE, and then want to be the good guys. I'm pretty sure history would suggest that when you're the one storming a church, you're not the good guys here. You're not part of the good guys. That's just kind of like a little history 101 is how I would put it. But leave it to Don Lemon to twist himself in a way that makes him out to be the victim in all of this. And, of course, what does he do? Well, he falls back on what he always falls back on, his race and his sexual orientation. Because in his eyes, guess what? You can't say a peep. There is no comeback when you're falling back on your race and your sexual orientation. As far as he's concerned, that's it. Conversation's over. There's no debate to be had once you break out that card. And I'm here to tell you, Don, people are overbuying that. That card is worthless. You can break it out, but it's worthless. It doesn't mean anything to anybody anymore. We deal in the world of facts, Don Lemon. I know you don't like them. I know they're not convenient for you. But you can scream about your race and sexual orientation all you want. And if that makes you feel morally superior, if your sexual orientation and your race makes you believe that you can do no wrong and you're always in the right, and you can call other people racist, which is what he did. He called people in the church racist without knowing anything about them and having no idea why they were there. Well, we know why they were there, but really not knowing anything about these people, he called them all racists. He called anyone who disagreed with what he did, basically, on Sunday morning in Minneapolis, racist. And maybe that works for a small segment, small segment of the diehard base. But, most people are over that. They're tired of it. That ship sailed probably in 2021. And when you're still using the playbook of 2021, that's how you end up like Andy Reid, looking for a new offensive coordinator and potentially falling back on Eric Bieniemy. That's how that ends up happening, which we'll save that for another topic this morning.